Welcome to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today, we are strapping into a time machine set for 1984. Think peak era shoulder pads, massive hair, budgets maybe even bigger than the hair. We're doing a deep dive into the short, pretty spectacular, but ultimately kind of tragic life of an ABC primetime soap called Paper Dolls. This is a show that, well, according to our sources, it really had all the pieces, the right ingredients for success. And yet it just vanished, left behind a lot of confusion, I think, and disappointment for its audience, which was, well, small, but definitely dedicated.
It really is one of the most intriguing case studies from that mid-'80s TV landscape. You got to remember the context here. Shows like Dallas, Dynasty, they weren't just hits. They were like cultural phenomena defining the decade.
Oh, absolutely.
So every network was desperate, absolutely desperate, to copy that glossy, high-stakes formula. Paper Dolls was ABC's really focused, super polished attempt to catch that lightning in a bottle. But it zeroed in on a very specific, pretty ruthless niche, the New York fashion industry. High stakes, youth is everything, ambition rules all.
Right. And our sources for this deep dive, they paint a really detailed picture. A show with this massive A-list ensemble cast, plot lines that were, genuinely complex, gripping stuff, and, the rarest thing for a failed show, critical praise, like consistently good reviews.
Exactly. The reviewers actually loved it. So our mission today isn't just to run through the plot. We want to explore that central paradox.
Yeah.
Why did this really hyped up series of, top models, cutthroat agents, corporate titans, why did it vanish almost as fast as a runway trend? We're going to trace its origins, which are kind of complex, starting with a surprisingly successful TV film. Then we'll unpack the main narrative threads, the corporate battles, the maternal exploitation, which is pretty dark. And finally, look at the brutal reality of network TV in '84. Only 14 episodes. And, the cliffhangers. So many agonizingly unresolved cliffhangers. We're really looking for the why behind the failure of something that looks so perfect.
Okay, let's unpack it. We really can't talk about the 1984 series without laying that groundwork first, right? It didn't just poof appear. It grew out of a TV movie from '82 that was, well, hugely successful. What kind of splash did that pilot film actually make?
Oh, the initial impact was huge. It really set a high bar, maybe too high, for the series that followed. Paper Dolls first showed up as an ABC Monday night movie, May 24th, 1982. This wasn't some small cable thing. This was primetime network television.
Big deal back then.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And it performed. The film pulled in 20.5 million viewers. That kind of number, it just screams demand, right, for this type of drama set in the fashion world.
And the story in that original film, it already had those, those classic soap opera gold elements. These two teenage models, Taryn and Lori, total opposites. But the real drama, the engine, was their mothers. Fiercely strong-willed, sometimes downright predatory mothers, really driving their daughters' careers.
Yeah.
It set up that the stakes weren't just about modeling jobs, but about the whole family's financial, even social survival.
And that first cast, wow. It was like a preview of the star power to come. A phenomenal group of actors who were really on the rise. Daryl Hannah played Taryn, one of the models.
Right.
And Alexandra Paul playing Lori. This was actually her very first credited acting role, according to the sources. It's kind of amazing to think about the careers launched just from that pilot movie.
But the real, magnetic center of that fashion world, the agency owner, Racine, that was the big casting coup for the film, wasn't it? In the '82 version, she was played by, the undisputed queen of primetime soaps herself.
Joan Collins.
Joan Collins. Listed with that super coveted special guest star credit, they were absolutely capitalizing on her Dynasty fame.
Oh, definitely. Having Collins in that role, even just for the movie, it instantly cemented the show's genre. It promised that specific level of glamour, the catty dialogue everyone loved, and you also had other recognizable faces. Mark Singer, Craig T. Nelson, rounding out the cast.
Solid.
Yeah. And a little note for production geeks like us. The film was directed by Edward Zwick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, who went on to direct huge movies, big TV series. It just shows the serious creative talent involved right from the very beginning.
So given that success, 20.5 million viewers, that's a huge green light from the audience. MGM Television quickly decided, okay, 1984, let's turn this into a weekly series. But this is where it gets complicated, right? And maybe where the first, cracks started showing for the long run. Turning that hit movie into a weekly show meant, well, huge recasting. Almost everyone.
The recasting was, absolutely brutal. And it really makes you wonder about the production stability from the get-go. Replacing Joan Collins, even with another powerhouse, was at a huge risk. Did it maybe alienate some of that initial audience?
Could be.
By 84, Collins was that genre,
Yeah.
but she was obviously tied up with Dynasty, unavailable. So Racine needed a new face, and strategically, they landed Morgan Fairchild.
Which, look, Morgan Fairchild stepping into that role, that was a brilliant choice in terms of sheer star wattage at the time. She really embodied that specific mix, didn't she? Sophisticated glamour, but also that conniving ambition the 80s soaps thrived on.
Yeah.
She was in a lot of ways kind of perfect for playing a glamorous cutthroat agency boss.
But the changes didn't stop with Racine. Daryl Hannah and Alexandra Paul, the original Peen models, they were out. Nicolette Sheridan came in as the more troubled Taryn Blake, and Terry Farrell stepped in as the innocent Laurie Caswell.
Big shoes to fill?
Huge shoes. Think about that swap. Trying to replace faces the audience already connected with from that hit movie, it really shows they believed the concept, the setting itself, was maybe stronger than the individual stars. A big gamble.
And almost nobody made the jump from the movie to the series. Our sources confirm it was basically only Jennifer Warren, who played Dinah Caswell, one of the mothers,
Like Laurie's mother.
and Jeffrey Richman, who had a pretty minor role as Conrad. That's it. That's a lot of discontinuity when you're launching a big, anticipated series.
And we absolutely have to pause here because there's a tragic human element that made this transition even harder. Joan Hackett, who played Julia Blake, Taryn's difficult, money-driven mother in the original film. She died unexpectedly, right before production on the series could even start.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So that meant Brenda Vaccaro had to step into that incredibly tough, frankly mean-spirited role for the weekly show. It just underscores the immense pressure, the fragility of these big productions. They were dealing with huge commercial hopes, major casting changes, and real-life tragedy, all while trying to keep the original vision intact. That's a massive burden before episode 1 even hits the air.
It really is. Talk about starting under a cloud. So they had this commercial mandate, this expensive show, an audience waiting, but they had to basically rebuild the core cast. So with the new cast finally in place, the series launches September 23rd, 1984. And let's just remember, it only ran for 14 episodes.
Just 14. Gone too soon.
But the world they built in those few months, that setting of New York fashion, corporate warfare, it was, well, meticulously put together, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Let's talk about that structure because it was classic soap opera, done really well. The show carefully built these 3 interlocking areas of conflict, designed for maximum tension, maximum plot crossing over.
Okay, so what's the first arena?
Arena 1, the agency. Racine's modeling agency. All the glamour, the ruthlessness is right there. It's where the youth, the beauty, the immediate commercial value resides. It's this constant struggle, right? Managing temperamental top models while fighting off corporate enemies trying to steal them or just buy her out.
Okay, the agency. Then there's the bigger picture, the corporate world.
Exactly. Arena 2, the corporate behemoth. Harper, worldwide conglomerate. Cosmetics, high-end sportswear, finance. This is where the real power, often the dirty power, is concentrated. It's the world of succession fights, deep family secrets, boardroom coups, all ruled by the ultimate patriarch, Grant Harper.
Got it. Agency corporation. What's the third?
Arena 3, the one designed to really pull you in emotionally. The team models themselves, that fascinating contrast, right? The jaded, troubled star, Taryn, versus the innocent, fresh-faced newcomer, Laurie. Their conflict, their connection, it's all managed, even exploited by Racine. And that ties all 3 worlds together.
Okay, let's spend some real time on those corporate titans then, because the scale of the drama really starts there. The Harper family, their empire, led by Lloyd Bridges as Grant Harper. He's the manipulative chairman, classic soap villain, rules with an iron fist.
Grant Harper is that central pillar of, patriarchal power. But his main, most corrosive conflict within the family is with his own son, Wesley Harper, played by Dak Rambo. Wesley's the CEO of Harper Cosmetics. And this isn't just like professional jealousy. It runs much deeper. It's foundational hatred.
And what's really interesting there is Wesley doesn't just quietly disagree in meetings. He actively teams up with Racine, the fashion world's biggest shark, against his own father.
Yes.
It's this dangerous political alliance that really fuels that whole corporate plotline.
And the motivation is key. Wesley blames Grant for the accidental death of his mother, Virginia, Grant's first wife. That deep, unresolved family grief, it gives him this incredibly rich, ongoing motive for corporate sabotage, personal revenge. It turns what could be a simple business rivalry into this emotional blood feud. which is exactly what a good soap needs, right? We see Wesley's grief kind of poison every decision he makes to undercut his dad's power.
Wow. So, grief-fueling business warfare, that's sophisticated stuff. Grant's second wife is Marjorie, played by Nancy Olson. But let's look at Grant's daughter, Blair Harper Fenton, played by Mimi Rogers. She's a crucial link, isn't she, between the boardroom and the catwalk?
Blair is absolutely critical because she embodies the show's core theme, that ruthless obsession with youth, with perfection. She's Racine's top model, but she's 30 and pregnant,
Oh.
which immediately introduces this ticking clock, right? And that central idea of becoming obsolete in the industry. She's terrified her career's over because of potential health issues from the pregnancy, but she's determined to have the baby.
That storyline perfectly captures the show's message. Connecting back to that closing thought we'll get to later. What's the price of perfection? Blair's health, her entire career, are pitted against this very natural life event, which the fashion industry just sees as a massive liability.
Exactly. And her husband, David Fenton, played by Richard Beimer, he gets tangled up in all the financial drama, too. He runs Tempest Sportswear, a rival company.
Yeah.
And his desire to prove himself, without Harper money, it sets him up for a huge fall.
David's subplot is just a stunning example of pride going before the fall, isn't it? Because he's too proud to take Harper money, he makes this catastrophic decision. He turns to loan sharks to fund his new collection. Walk us through that tension. What does that choice really mean for him?
It means he basically signed his soul away on sharks in a soap opera. They're never just background noise. They mean immediate physical danger, financial ruin. That decision instantly puts both him and Blair in real peril, adds this dark criminal layer to all the high society gloss. And you see the pressure just mount and mount as his collection launch gets closer. The loan shark's demands get more aggressive. You're basically watching a man self-destruct because his pride is literally killing him.
Classic high-stakes drama. And we know how this particular fire gets put out, at least temporarily. That crippling pride eventually forces him to go crawling back to Grant, his manipulative father-in-law, begging for a bailout to avoid total ruin.
And that is the payoff the audience craves, right? The inevitable corporate takeover. Grant doesn't just save him. He squeezes every last drop of leverage out of it, pays off the loan, the crazy interest, sure. But in return, Tempest Sportswear gets completely swallowed up by Harper Worldwide. Gone.
Wow.
It's a perfect display of Grant's power, his manipulation. He doesn't rescue people. He acquires them. He just expands his empire using their failures.
Paints Grant as this calculated puppeteer, not just some rich guy. Okay, let's shift focus now to the real engine of the show, the source of its unique glamour, its specific conflicts, the agency, the model wars, all led by the incomparable Morgan Fairchild as Racine. She's the center of it all, owner of the top agency, source of most of the conflict, and, let's be honest, the best lines.
Racine's character is just meticulously designed to be the embodiment of that glamorous ruthlessness that defines the whole industry. She sees beauty as just another commodity, relationships as transactions, and she holds on to her power by managing these two really different teen models. The established troubled star, Taryn Blake.
Played by Nicolette Sheridan.
Right. And the fresh, innocent new face, Lori Caswell, who she basically uses as leverage against Taryn.
So Sheridan as Taryn Blake, she's the current top teen model, but her success comes at this huge personal cost. Our sources confirm she's visibly struggling with drugs, with alcohol, which, for 1984 primetime network TV, that was surprisingly dark, wasn't it? Pretty sensitive stuff to put in a glossy soap.
It was a risk. Definitely a risk for ABC to tackle substance abuse alongside the usual corporate backstabbing. That risk is important context for the show.
Yeah.
And to make it feel even more real, more celebrity-driven, Taryn gets involved in this sensational romance with an actual 80s pop star.
Yeah.
John Waite played himself in a recurring role.
Oh, I remember that. That kind of celebrity cameo adds this layer of, hyper-reality to the drama, right? Grounds Taryn's glamorous but really shaky existence in the actual celebrity culture of the 80s.
Exactly. But the truly sinister part of Taryn's story is pure financial control, maternal exploitation. Her mother, Julia Blake, played by Brenda Vaccaro, is just vindictive, demanding, and sees Taryn only as a meal ticket.
Chilling.
And the dynamic is even more chilling because there's a clear deadline for the mother's villainy. Julia absolutely dreads the day Taryn turns 17, because then Taryn gets legal control of her own money, cutting Julia off completely. So Julia's whole mean-spirited existence is dictated by keeping Taryn working, keeping her commercially valuable, no matter the cost to Taryn herself. It's a terrifying picture of maternal abuse, just dressed up in designer clothes.
And you contrast that with Lori Caswell, played by Terry Farrell, the new, naive, innocent face. Racine promoting Lori is a deliberate power move, isn't it? She boosts Lori's career specifically to keep Taryn, and really, Taryn's awful mother, Julia, in line. Talent as blackmail.
Totally. And the contrast is driven home by how unsophisticated Lori is. She's still trying to live a normal life, still going to public school out on Long Island in Stonehurst, completely unprepared for the speed, the pressure, the immorality of the modeling world. She's the innocence Taryn lost, kind of a mirror image for the audience.
And her mother, Dinah Anderson Caswell, played by Jennifer Warren, she's a former model herself, but she's determined to protect Lori, tries desperately to keep her grounded, sane. But our sources note that Dinah's intense focus on Lori's career, it inevitably puts a strain on her own marriage to Michael Caswell, Lori's stepdad, played by John Bennett Perry.
So you get this maternal divide.
Mm.
Right? You've got Julia, money-driven, demanding, destructive, versus Dinah, well-meaning, trying to keep things grounded, but ultimately distracted, maybe destabilizing her own family life.
Yeah.
And this rivalry between the mothers just gets more intense every week, even while Taryn and Lori, despite being so different, actually manage to become good friends. Surprisingly.
That's actually a really sophisticated way to handle the genre, isn't it? It shows that even in this hyper-competitive, destructive world, the kids can connect on a human level. While the older generation is just totally locked in conflict over money and status, it kind of suggests the real villains aren't the young models, but the system that exploits them and the adults who enable it.
Yeah, absolutely. And outside the immediate fashion bubble, you have these two key recurring characters who bring in plot, but also, importantly, perspective. The lawyer and the reporter. Sarah Frank, played by Anne Shadeen. She's Blair's sensible lawyer friend, often the voice of reason against all the excess. And then there's Mark Bailey, played by Roscoe Bourne. He's a reporter covering fashion, gets quickly sucked into Racine's orbit, becomes enamored with her, is the word the sources use. He's driven to get closer, professionally and personally, which is what eventually leads him to start digging into her past, her secretive past.
Ooh. And this is where the show's personality, its wit, its whole tone really shines through, right, in the dialogue. Sarah Frank, the lawyer, she gives us a couple of absolutely fantastic quips about Racine that just instantly establish the show's vibe. Its approach to glamour and scandal. It's not just stating facts. The characters deliver these barbed comments.
Yes. The source material has these gems. Sarah's really skeptical about Mark's fascination with Racine. She agrees Racine has, quote, done well for a girl named off of a map of Wisconsin.
That's perfect. Such a backhanded compliment. Acknowledges the success, but diminishes the background, right?
Exactly. But then she really goes for the kill shot, delivers that unforgettable line that Racine has, quote, been in more beds than a hotel breakfast tray. I mean, that's not just gossip. It tells you instantly about Racine's calculated use of sex, of influence, establishes her reputation as someone trading on way more than just good taste. It just defines that sophisticated, catty tone the show had.
It is sharp, it's ruthless, it perfectly captures the kind of verbal sparring that, yeah, viewers of Dynasty and Dallas absolutely expected. They tuned in for that stuff. Paper Dolls totally understood the assignment for the glossy soap genre. Do we know if the writing staff was, like, poached from the big hitters, or was this unique to Paper Dolls?
It seems like the sharp dialogue really came from a clear commitment to delivering those required genre elements and focusing heavily on Racine, on Morgan Fairchild, as the main source of that wit, that cruelty. The series used all the standard tricks, right? Big business, intense glamour, intrigue everywhere, corporate, personal catfights, and those fantastic verbal smackdowns, often started or expertly delivered by Racine.
Let's revisit those key dialogue examples again, because they really are the show's signature.
Yeah.
That exchange in Racine's office, she's getting a massage. The reporter, Mark Bailey's there. Mark, trying to be polite, asks, do you want me to wait outside until you're decent?
And Racine, just totally cool while getting massaged, delivers the absolute mic drop. How much time do you have?
Pure power move.
Total control, the scene, the schedule, the conversation, the vibe. She's the star of her own movie, and everyone else is just waiting for their cue from her.
And the catfight dialogue with Julia Blake, Taryn's awful mother, is even better. Julia storms into Racine's office holding this Barbie-style doll of Karen. She's furious about a manufacturing mistake. Julia yells, "This will not be the new Taryn Blake doll. The eyes are brown."
And Racine's response? Ice cold. Brutally effective. Doesn't even address the doll, ignores the tantrum, goes straight for a personal jab about Taryn's known problems. Her cool comeback. I guess they couldn't quite match that bloodshot tone.
Oh my God, that is pure, unadulterated 1980s soap opera genius.
Isn't it? It instantly tells you Racine has zero patience for Julia's entitlement, and that she knows exactly what's going on with Taryn's substance abuse, and she's willing to weaponize it publicly.
It's the kind of writing that really elevates the genre, makes it almost dramatic satire. Now, one really interesting detail our sources bring up about the show's structure, which kind of reveals the effort they put into making each storyline distinct, is the episode titling.
Yeah, this is a niche point, but it's telling about what they intended. In the U.S., the 14 episodes didn't really have titles when they first aired. But when it was broadcast internationally, like in Germany specifically, they used this structural device. Every single episode was named after a different character. Like, one week it's Grant, the next Racine, then Dinah, Julia.
Huh. That character-centric titling, even if it was just for international viewers, it really highlights how the show was built, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Each week zooming in intensely on one person's conflict within that bigger web of Harper Worldwide and Racine's agency. It gave the audience a clear anchor point each week, which, might have actually helped keep people watching if the U.S. run hadn't been so stop-start.
Could be. And we also have to mention the mid-series attempt to inject some new energy, some new legitimacy into the show. The source material notes the late addition of the legendary model Lauren Hutton.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she came in as Colette Ferrier for 5 episodes, from 9 through 13. Pretty late in the game.
Bringing in Lauren Hutton, that's definitely a star power move. A bid for instant recognition. Probably trying to stabilize those falling ratings or spark some new buzz after that initial drop. But yeah, seems like it was maybe too little, too late. Especially since her character only showed up in the back half of a very short run.
Yeah, the ultimate fate of Paper Dolls wasn't sealed by bad writing or poor production or weak acting. Critically, the show was hitting all those marks. It was sealed by the ruthless, often arbitrary realities of network TV, where a high-cost show needs immediate, consistent ratings, period.
And this is where the story turns from, glamorous intrigue to just pure television tragedy. The series got rave reviews. Our sources mentioned People magazine actually urging viewers, give this show a chance, praising its sharp wit, its high production values. Critically, it was doing great.
But the ratings reality,
Brutal.
brutal. And this is the core of the paradox. Despite a really strong premiere, an 18.4 rating, which was like 18.4 million people tuning in, the audience just evaporated rapidly, dramatically.
That initial 18.4 million, that's a huge launch pad. But look at the drop right after episode 2, down to 13.6 million. That's a loss of nearly 5 million viewers in 1 week.
Ouch.
And later episodes dipped catastrophically low, hitting abysmal numbers like 9.3, 9.9 million viewers. A steep, steady decline like that, it just spells instant death for an expensive primetime drama.
And the source material pins this disaster not on the show's quality, but on a very specific and incredibly frustrating external factor. The series, quote, was not able to find an audience, due in large part because it had been preempted on some weeks by the baseball playoffs.
Can you believe it? It's the most anticlimactic downfall ever for a show built on corporate greed and ambition killed by baseball. But why are preemptions like that so uniquely damaging to this genre, especially a new show trying to get traction?
Well, continuity is everything for soap opera. Right? These are stories built on complex, interconnected plots. You need that weekly fix, that sustained attention. If a viewer misses a huge development, like David Fenton's loan shark problem suddenly exploding, or a new twist in the Grant versus Wesley war because a baseball game ran long, they often feel too lost to come back.
Right, you lose the thread.
Exactly. And for a new series, one that doesn't have the decades of loyalty like Dallas or Dynasty had built up, interrupting that narrative flow over and over again, it's just a death sentence. The cancellation mid-season was swift, brutal, but honestly completely justified by that catastrophic drop in viewers holding on.
And because it was so swift, so brutal, the series just ended, December 25th, 1984, leaving behind some truly sensational, and for the viewers who were watching, just maddeningly unresolved plot lines. That final episode wasn't like a season finale. It was more like a huge setup for things that never happened.
Oh, the cliffhangers are legendary.
Yeah.
Precisely because they promised these huge game-changing dramas that the audience never, ever got to see play out. They were designed, obviously, to make sure you came back next season, but the network had already made the call. Pulled the plug.
Okay, cliffhanger number 1, business failure, financial ruin. David Fenton, Blair's proud husband, owner of Tempest Sportswear, totally on the verge of collapse. Because Racine and Wesley Harper had successfully, ruthlessly blackmailed a big fashion critic into just panning his new collection, destroying it.
What a phenomenal team up, right? Racine and Wesley bonding over corporate cruelty. Their joint revenge plots against Grant's family just left hanging mid-execution. Okay, cliffhanger 2. Potential personal tragedy in the Harper family. This would have shattered Grant's world. Marjorie Harper, Grant's second wife, feared dead in a plane crash.
A plane crash, classic soap opera move, huge chaos device.
Hmm.
Introduces grief, mystery, maybe lets you kill off a character without needing an on-screen death scene. Was Marjorie really dead? Or just missing, setting up a search plot for season 2? We literally have no idea.
None. And then the final one, the most personal and arguably the juiciest cliffhanger, involving the show's magnetic center, Racine herself. Mark Bailey, the reporter obsessed with her, calls her, and he hints strongly that his digging into her secretive past had finally turned up something. Very interesting.
Oh, that is the ultimate hook. Who was Racine before she was Racine from Wisconsin? Some deep, dark secret that could just destroy her reputation, her power. Something that could completely change her character from mogul to, I don't know, vulnerable fraud? Was she an imposter, running from something terrible we never found out what Mark found? Or who Racine really was? The series just ends right there, on the brink of her biggest secret getting blown wide open.
It's the defining feature of a spectacular flameout, isn't it? It ends not with resolution, but with this series of thunderous, unanswered questions. Questions that promised a dramatically different season 2. And that unresolved nature, ironically, might be what cemented its status as this cult classic.
So, the US TV landscape rejected Paper Dolls pretty fast. But its glamour, its high drama, it actually found a much warmer welcome, a more sustained life overseas. The show definitely had an international legacy, which kind of proves the quality wasn't really the issue, right?
It certainly did. Domestically, yeah, the reruns eventually found a second life years later on the SOAPnet cable channel, let a new generation appreciate its sharpness. But internationally, it was embraced all across Europe, South America.
Like, for example, it was shown in the UK on the ITV network, though our sources say the scheduling was kind of all over the place depending on the region, which happens a lot there. In Italy, it aired on Canale 5 under this fantastic title, Il profumo del successo, which translates beautifully as the taste of success.
Ooh, I like that. Germany called it Karussell der Puppendoll Carousel. That title is really insightful, actually. Speaks directly to that relentless, repetitive fashion cycle and how disposable models are, right? Just rotating dolls on a carousel of fame that doesn't last.
That's deep.
And in South America and Spain, playing up the glamour, it was known as muñecas de papel, paper dolls.
And Sweden, maybe the most direct title of all, called it Mode de Corna when it aired in '86. Just means the fashion dolls. The fact that it got syndicated globally, earned these specific themed titles in different languages, it really proves the production value, the look, the story complexity. It was strong enough to work anywhere.
It fundamentally suggests the show itself wasn't the core problem. It was market conditions, bad scheduling luck. The failure of paper dolls teaches us a really crucial lesson about the mid-'80s TV market, especially about niche programming. By 1984, maybe that glossy soap genre was just hitting saturation point. And perhaps the fashion industry itself as a focus was just inherently more limited compared to, say, eternal conflicts over oil or land.
That's a really strong point. If you think about it big picture, Dallas was about oil, timeless source of global power, political corruption. Dynasty had oil, wine again, eternal symbols of wealth, legacy, fashion. It's seasonal by definition, driven by fleeting trends, by youth. Maybe that makes the drama itself feel a little more disposable, less foundational than fighting over Ewing oil.
Exactly. It had the perfect formula on paper: the look, the stars, the drama, the sharp dialogue. But if your niche is maybe too narrow, and if outside factors like baseball playoffs keep breaking up the story flow for a continuing drama, then even rave reviews and huge stars can't save you. The audience, already used to the established hits, they just moved on when the show disappeared for a few weeks.
So, a victim of bad timing, market fatigue, not necessarily quality. The show really did shimmer with that '80s glamour, and its short run kind of reminds us that in the cutthroat world of network TV, where youth and ratings rule everything, even the most perfectly cast, beautifully written show can just spoil if it gets left out in the cold. We saw the price of perfection demanded of Blair Fenton, the exploitation faced by Taryn Blake, that constant threat of becoming obsolete themes that were tragically mirrored in the show's own short life.
The show really was about the price of perfection. And in a way, the industry made the ultimate statement by deciding Paper Dolls itself was disposable.
Paper Dolls shimmered with '80s glamour, a soap about the price of perfection and the people willing to pay it. In a world of flashbulbs and ambition, everyone was disposable. Except the dream.
Thank you for joining us.
If you enjoyed revisiting Paper Dolls, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And tell us in the comments which classic soap opera should we explore next.